think not a lot of people do micro crochet, and if they do, they don't tend to talk about the sort of materials and techniques and stuff. We're using our tiny hook here, the 0.4. So welcome to another Happy Berry Cozy Crochet Corner video as we move away a little bit from making tutorials. If you missed my video last Friday, do go check it out. There's a massive update to how my channel is changing and some things I'm working on. But I think these little cozy crochet chats would be really nice just to talk through some things I'm working on and maybe some new yarns that have come out or just certain types of projects and stuff. And today I really wanted to talk about micro crochet because it's something that pops up on my channel on Instagram a few times, and a few of you have commented on it and stuff, and it's kind of something I do in the background as a hobby. Not that crochet is a hobby anyway, but it's like a hobby and I don't really talk much about it, so I thought it might be nice to talk about that today. Because I don't know if you can see my caravan in the background. This is a project I'm working on, and I've been sharing little updates on this on Instagram as well, and I will be eventually releasing this as a free crochet pattern, and I'm not using plastic canvas, I'm using cardboard because I wanted to use something that most people would just have lying around the house. Maybe it's easier to get hold of than plastic canvas, and I say that because that's all I had in the house. I didn't have any plastic canvas, and I just really wanted to design a caravan. But if you look inside, this was a little tiny crochet blanket. I don't know if you can see this. Little tiny crochet blanket that I made using the world's smallest crochet hook. So let's show this in more detail. So this micro crochet blanket I made quite a while ago now. I would say a good 6 months, a year ago now. And I think not a lot of people do micro crochet, and if they do, they don't tend to talk about the sort of materials and techniques and stuff. And of course you need some good lighting, maybe some good glasses if you're not good with close-ups. But this is my little special tin that I think my parents bought me. I had licorice in at one point, and I now use it as my micro crochet travel kit. And in here, so this is really behind the scenes, I've got some little scissors, and I've got two types of yarn. I say yarn, it's thread basically. To make these really tiny granny squares, I was using sewing thread. So this is literally the thread you would use on a sewing machine. And happen to have these colours at the moment because I have actually been making some tiny crochet squares using the thread, and this is the size that they come out with. And I'm using this crochet hook, which I think it doesn't actually say the size on it, so I forget what size it is. I think it's 0.4, and it is absolutely minute. I mean, I can't even get the camera to focus on how small it is. It's so small, and it's so easy to break. So it comes with this little cover here, and it's making these size granny squares, which are the same size as these pretty much. Very small, and yeah, it can drive you mad. But I have been making a few more of these. You do end up with a lot of threads to sew in, but I find that quite relaxing. I'm not one of these crocheters who gets irritated by sewing in the ends. I find it as a sort of therapeutic, meditative process, which I quite like to do. It gives me a break from the crochet. Although on a micro scale, it's a little bit more crazy. But I am working on another tiny little blanket here. I did make a different design. Obviously the basic granny square, traditional granny square, is the easiest to get going with. So I always recommend starting with the traditional square. But I did try and make a different type of square. This tiny little granny square, but it is a 3D and it has a little flower on the top. But I got to about, I think I made 2 of these. Let's see how many I've got in here. think I made about 2 of these and then got really fed up with doing it, so my patience just didn't last. So I don't really know what to do with these tiny squares now, because I only have 2, I think so. But anyway, that is what I use for micro crochet, the really small stuff. And it's so cool because when you make dolls' houses and things, you can make these realistic looking crochet blankets. Obviously this is very, very fiddly to do. It is ridiculously fiddly. So here's another one I made. Actually, this was just continuing rather than making lots of little squares. So, and this I actually used in a video to demonstrate if you make a huge granny square like this, eventually it starts to twist. And that's the reason for that is because you keep working in the same direction every so slightly. Each round shifts just very slightly, so you end up with this kind of shifting square. To prevent that, to get like a perfect square that never moves, is you change direction on each round. And you may or may not know this already, but so you do the first round, then change direction, go the other way, then the other way, then the other way. And what that does, it just counteracts that twist and you end up with a perfect square. So this was a really good demonstration on a tiny scale of creating a perfect square. But yeah, this was another one I did. A little bit easier to do because you're just working one giant square, and I just added this cute little trim around the edge. It's really sweet. So that's another little mini blanket that I made. But if you want to get into micro crochet, this is just a little bit too crazy small. I recommend just scaling it up a little bit. And I have been using these yarns project I'm working on. I'm making a little zipped bag. You may have seen my post on Instagram, I don't know, showing these yarns. And I'm actually using an antique crochet hook for these, which is slightly bigger. So this was a beautiful tiny crochet hook that my mom gave me, which I think she got from her mom, who got it from her mom. So this is from my great grandmother, and I've actually researched this crochet hook, and it dates from around 1900 to 1930s, so it's over about 100 years old, this crochet hook, which is insane. But my great grandmother would have used this for lace making, and the size of this one is, it does actually say this one, it's a 4.5, so it's old-fashioned measurements. So, but this comes in at about, is it 1.5? I think? I don't know. It seems smaller than that, so I'm not sure. You'll have to if you know what 4.5 is in metric, then do let me know. But it's pretty much the same size as this one, but a slightly bigger, as you can see. So 0.4 versus sort of 1 millimeter. Very, very similar, but it's a little bit easier to work with. And with using it with this slightly thicker crochet thread, these are easier to, these are easy to find anyway, aren't they? But this is probably one of the thinnest. I think you may even get thinner ones. Crochet thread, and I think this brand is not sponsored. Actually, I have no idea. It just says Madame Tricot Paris cotton pearl, but they're basically just crochet threads. This one I think's puppets, size 8, if that means anything to you. Once the yarns get, this is made in Hungary. Oh, actually it's made in Hungary. That's cool. Once you get to crochet threads, I get very confused with the sizes. So if it goes below DK or Sportwear, I'm like, it all starts to get muddled. But I have been making these squares. So if you compare it with this square, which is also 3 rounds, you can see the size difference. But it is a good way to get into making small granny squares like this. I want to show you how I start off one of these squares using a tiny yarn. So I always start with a magic circle, because I find if I use the chain 4 loop, it's a little bit fiddlier to see the center of the chain 4 loop. Sorry, I'm touching the camera. But so I do a magic circle, so it's a little bit easier. But to do a magic circle, if you don't know already, I just wrap it around my 2 fingers and cross over at the top, and then hold it with these fingers. Then I go underneath the first loop, and then I grab the second one and bring that up, and then I just yarn over and I secure that with a little chain one. Okay, and if you can hold on to that, I'll show you again because I messed it up. Twist it over the top, under the first, grab the second. So you're getting a mini tutorial today. And then just pull through a little chain one like so. Then I let go and I pull the tail end slightly to bring in the circle. And all I need to remember, because I don't do this in normal crochet, I only do this with micro crochet, so it's a bit easier to work. It's just make sure the tail end is always on the left hand side. And I'm always holding it here. And then from here, I just go straight into my granny squares. So I'm going to chain another 5. So I have 6 chains in total, and then the first 3 are a double crochet, and then the next 3 are the corner. And I don't know how well this camera is going to be focusing on this. 4, 5, and 6. And it's just a little bit easier to work when you're doing micro crochet, because you can see it's starting to twist around, but if you always make sure this tail end's on the left, you know which direction you're going. You can just pull that down and then go straight into your double crochets. And I can just hold the loop. It's just a bit less fiddly than trying to do a magic ring and all the stitches at once. And it's just about being slow and meditative and just taking your time, holding on to things, pulling things down a lot. That really helps. And then slowly but surely, obviously that's going to happen, and it can drive you mad trying to find that little hooks again, those little loops again. But eventually you get the hang of it. And once it started, the thing with micro crochet is that starting is the most complicated part. So there we go, we've got our beginning. You can just pull that in as you go, beginning of our tiny granny square. Whereas if we swap it up with, let's grab, I can't show white because it's not going to show up on camera, so we're going to go purple in the middle. So if we swap to the tiny little crochet hook and this crochet thread. So this is just normal sewing thread, and you can see it is so small, so thin, but the same technique applies. So we're using our tiny hook here, the 0.4. Same thing again, I'm just going to wrap it around, cross over and hold. Go under the first and grab the top. Bring it up and then just grab that yarn and very carefully make that first chain, which you can barely see. Same thing again, just pull on the tail end and bring down the circle, and then I can hold on to my magic ring. And then from there, if there's even focusing, I don't know, but I'm going to make my next chains. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, just bring in that circle, holding on to my magic ring, then yarn over, get into my magic ring, bring that through. All I need to do is make sure that the tail end of my magic circle is on the left hand side. Just keep holding on like so, and before you know it, you have got past the fiddly stage of working tiny little granny squares. Which may drive some of you absolutely crazy, but it can be so much fun. And one of the things I love about it the most is being able to everything's so small, so it's really easy to just take in a tiny tin and take with you on a project. But I can only do it for a certain amount of time before my eyesight gets a little bit sore. So I'm going to chain 3 on the corner, tiny chain 3, and then I'm going to just pull that circle in, work another 3 double crochet for my first round. And also, obviously with the crochet hook, I always twist it down as it comes through. And it's not that you can really see the stitch, it's that you feel the stitch. So I think this is definitely not for beginners. Absolutely definitely not for beginners, oh my gosh. It's not even for it's not even for people that have been crocheting for years. No, but you have to be someone who has crocheted for a long time, and you know what what crocheting feels like. And I think once you are one of those people that can just do a few stitches without looking, then micro crochet is achievable. Okay, let's see if I can actually finish this tiny square. Not the whole square, but the first round. 3. Okay, always making sure my tail end's on the left. Another 3 double crochet. This is just a normal granny's square. If you like the actual pattern for this, I do have a tutorial, a recent tutorial on my channel showing the basic traditional granny's square. Bring that through. Will I do it? Will I do it? Because I'm not looking at the camera, so I really hope, I'm not sure how much you're going to be seeing. So 3 more chains. So my first 3 chains was a double crochet and the 3 chains on the corners. So at the end, this is my 4th set. I just need to do 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, and then I can completely close, make sure I've got enough, completely close this magic ring. Okay, and then all I need to do then is find that first 3 chains. What I like to do is just use my hook just to pull it up so I can see it. And I'm obviously not going to count like where the 3rd chain is. I'm just going to roughly look in the middle, stick my hook in, hope for the best, and do a little slip stitch. And there we go. So there is the beginning round of what would be one of these, but I've just done it in purple. It's very, very small. But anyway, I'm just going to put that down. I'm not going to do the whole thing on video. But yeah, I really hope that if you've shown an interest in micro crochet, that this video maybe is helpful, maybe giving you some tips on how to get started and what hook sizes to use. Like I said, this is the 0.4 for the micro crochet. This one for the slightly bigger thread. I mean, you could use it with this thread as well, but it will look more lacy. So I do recommend with a very thin crochet thread using this, which I think is 1.5, so whatever 4.5 is. Then, you know, give it a try, and maybe this will be helpful to you to get started, because I find that a lot of people that do this don't really talk about the materials, and they don't really talk about how to get started on the first rounds, which is absolutely the most fiddliest part. So, and yeah, and then eventually I will be sharing a little pattern for whatever I'm making these for. Slightly bigger micro crochet things. So, and also you can't use a normal yarn needle to sew in your ends, so you're gonna have to use like a normal sewing needle. So there we go. This is my little magnetic whale needle holder. Anyway, I hope that was useful and interesting to you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That's the power of editing. I'm still holding my rather terribly tasting hot chocolate drink here. But before we leave, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for all of you who have commented, not just on last Friday's video, but on my new crochet channel video for the Quantums, because you've given me so much feedback, positive feedback, and suggestions and kind comments, and you seem to be really embracing the new channel. And the changes on this channel as well, so it really means a lot to me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a new, not crochet channel, it's a storytelling channel. And it's called The Quantums, and it's based on the adventures of these little characters. But it really talks about, I would describe the channel as a story channel for thoughtful minds. So it's a kind of really mindfulness story channel. We're telling stories to hopefully inspire, and you know, I don't know if you ever used to read Aesop fables when you were younger. I was obsessed with Aesop fables, and I really wanted to create a similar kind of thing with my own designed characters, to really help people just to get through struggles in their life or overcome obstacles. And the first story is about Lumiling, and hopefully I've released this pattern already by the time this video comes out on Friday, this Friday. So that's available. She's available. I say she's gender neutral. Is available on my website, happyberry.co.uk. So if you want to go check it out and find Lumiling's crochet pattern. But that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Huge thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions of things you would like me to talk about or yarns to try, if I can get hold of them. I do have some new yarns on the way that I'm experimenting with, because when I designed the Quantoms, I used Crochet Society's Cuddle Craft DK yarn, and I'm struggling to get more of it, so I'm trying to find an alternative that's very similar. So I'm experimenting with thinner plushy yarn, so maybe we'll talk about that next week and see how that went. So but thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon for some more crochet chatty crafting fun. Bye.